Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm going to unpack the first 20 cantos of Dante's Inferno, and in two parts, so I'm going to catch everybody up to date here. Coming right up. Hello everyone, Alan here, and welcome to Southwest Georgia. Welcome to my channel. Please like and subscribe. I'd appreciate that. We're going to be doing cantos 1 through 10 in part 1. Then this afternoon or tomorrow I'll get around to cantos 11 through 20 and catch you all up to date here. So I'm just going to kind of riff along. So Canto 1, like I mentioned in the introduction, Dante's 35 years old. He started writing this in 1301. He was in exile. So in order to get into the Divine Comedy, and specifically the Inferno, you have to be two things. You have to be dead by 1300, and you have to be a sinner. Actually, you have to be three things. And what else? You have to be unrepentant for your sin. Now, I like this edition by John Grady because it has excellent notes in it. I am not a Dante scholar, but I have read this edition 3 times, and I've also read Mark Musso's edition. I'm also using a book by Mark Musso. I'll show it later. I don't have it on me right now, that he wrote a few years ago, specifically about Cantos 5 and 19 and 2 other ones. So I'll get to that. So he's having a midlife crisis, Dante is. He wakes up in from a strange road. He awakes alone in a dark wood. Now, dark wood symbolizes the unconscious. And he's not technically in hell until Canto 3. And although that's like the second circle, that's hell proper at the gate. But we have 3 animals that he meets. He meets a leopard, a lion, and a she-wolf. And these represent the 3 virtues of incontinence. And incontinence simply means like acts without reason, or desire without reason. And then we'll get to violence and fraud. Now, incontinence will have, well, I'll get to that. We'll have 3 different rounds. Hell is in the middle of earth, by the way, and from the ancient Greeks on, they knew the earth was round. So, that Columbus, sailed the ocean blue in 1492 is a misnomer. They knew the world was not flat. They knew it was round. So hell is, we'll go through, as he goes through the circles, it's like a funnel. It gets narrower and narrower. So anyway, he meets the leopard, and he'll meet the lion, and he'll meet the she-wolf along the way. And he also meets his master, Virgil. And Virgil is in limbo. And everyone else is in limbo, is a part of hell. And it's reserved for people who were like virtuous pagans. They were born before Christ. Like that. Aristotle is going to be there, Plato. Let's see. Yeah, for you are my true master and first author, the sole maker from whom I drew the breath of that sweet style whose measures have brought me honor. Virgil mentions how Beatrice talked him into this. We're going to meet Beatrice in Paradiso, where Virgil's going to hand over the reins to her. Here Virgil is Dante the Pilgrim. When I say Dante the Pilgrim, I mean the character of Dante in here. And when I say Dante, I'm going to mean the writer. And the Pilgrim is confused. He thinks that he sees the sun, and he thinks he's going to climb out of this hell. He doesn't know where he's at. He's confused. He's having a moral dilemma. That's the whole point of going through this this adventure. It's not really to show off all the tortures and sins of hell. He's wondering why he's here in the first place. And Virgil tells him, no, you're going to have to go by another way. You're going to have to go down. You have to go in to get out. We have other biblical references throughout here. I mean, Dante will use the Bible as much or more so than the Aeneid, than Virgil's Aeneid. Here's Aeneas' father. Anyway, so the notes are great in here. Like I said, everything I'm saying is from these notes. I should have brought out that copy of Mark Musa's the Gates of. I even forget the title. Pardon me, but it has some good pictures in it, and I'll get to that. So Canto 2, Virgil convinces Dante to go down, and he explains about Beatrice, and he's in limbo. He explains how he got to hell. I was a soul among the souls of limbo when a lady so blessed, so beautiful, I prayed to her in order and command my will called to me. He's going to refer to that in Canto 4 as well, lines 31-35. It is I, Beatrice, who send you to him. She's talking to Virgil in the past. I come from the blessed height from which I yearn. Love called me here. We're amid Sephirim, little angels. I stand again before my Lord. Your praises shall sound in earth. She pauses and, oh lady, of that only grace that raises. See the rhyme scheme? It's another reason I like Karate's version. Lucia, patron of the Saint Lucia, patron of eyesight. A little digression. Lucia was James Joyce's daughter. He named her Lucia, his eyesight. So, yeah, there we go. And I look forward to the comments. Please comment, and I'm very much into learning too. Anything I can learn from somebody, I am there. So we start to get a little gross in here, and the punishments meet the crime, the sins, as we go deeper and deeper into hell. Fallen angels. And we're going to start to get into the popes that are in hell for simonry, for, selling offices for profit. I mean, here's a great line. Pus and tears that dribbled to their feet to be swallowed there by lonesome worms and maggots. The river. Here's the guy that takes them over the river. Here's Adam. What's Adam doing in hell? Well, he died before Christ, didn't he? He's in limbo. And here Dante passes out for the first time. He's going to pass out at the end of Canto 5 as well. He also, he shows a lot of pity for these sinners. I can't understand why some are here and not in purgatory. Now, Dante, before Dante's Divine Comedy, there's real no description, no Catholic description of hell, besides like fire and brimstone and great gnashing of teeth. Again, I'll refer to chapter 5 of the Portrait of the Artist. Okay, here's the virtuous pagans, those, you know, dead before Jesus, and they didn't even know sin and repentance and things like that. Baptism's grace, they lacked baptism's grace, you know. The Prince of Poets, Dante. Now, Dante was famous by the time he wrote this. He wrote the New Life, which I've yet to read. Here we have Aeneas, Hector and Aeneas and Caesar, Electra, Brutus. Brutus deserves to be in hell, huh? Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, Orpheus. This is one of my favorite cantos in the Inferno, Canto 5, where we have Paolo and Francesca. It's the first of 9 circles. And Francesca, this happened a few years before the writing of the Inferno. What happened with Francesca and Paolo in Florence? They were an adulterous affair and were caught and killed by Francesca's husband, who was Paolo's brother. We also have the introduction of Minos, who is the judge of hell. He sends people to different circles by how many times he wraps his tail around himself. So the ruin gap of hell was when the earthquake happened, when Jesus was crucified. That's going to come up later. Now, before I get back into Francesca and Paolo, I like to mention Dido. She appears here in the 5th canto, the carnal, the lustful. And I'm questioning why, you know, Dido, briefly, she was, her husband had died, Zacchaeus, and if you remember the Aeneid, in book 4, that's when she has her affair with Aeneas, and she kills herself for love. So I'm wondering why she wouldn't be in the suicides, which is coming up here. That's a sin against God as well. That's coming up in one of the cantos. Anyway, so I wanted to mention that. Now, Cleopatra's here, as well as Helen, Achilles, Paris, Tristan, and Isolde. You know, they're in hell because of their lust and their adulterous affairs and things of that nature. Let me show you this book. I'm also getting some info. This is Mark Musa again at the gates. Francesca and Paolo, there were real people in Florence. And Francesca is not only the first person to speak in the Inferno, she's the first woman to speak throughout the Inferno. The only woman to speak in the Inferno. So they have their affair, and she talks in real eloquent language. She recognizes that the pilgrim is a living creature, and what is he doing in hell? Characters are going to repeat that, wondering why Dante is in hell and he's alive. But so they had their affair. It's windy now here in Georgia, southwest Georgia. They had their affair. Paolo was the brother of her husband. She leaves that detail out. She's speaking very eloquently. This is one reason why the pilgrim has so much pity for her. Now, she blames it on love. blames it on him and his kiss, yet she's the one who initiates the kiss. And she blames it also on the book, that book being the Knights of the Round Table. Now, Dante read the French version of that, but it's the same story with Lancelot and Guinevere, where she's saying that they were reading this book and they became overwhelmed with passion, so she couldn't help herself in a way. If you want to look at it like today, it would be like you and your brother-in-law, if you're a woman, are watching I don't know, a soft porn video, something, if that wouldn't be bad enough, and then blame it on that. So that was a real situation in Dante's time, and I'm sure they say it was probably in their version of the National Enquirer. And I'm getting all this from the notes as well. You know, I mean, I've read this, as I said, 3 times, and I'm not a Dante scholar. I've read it 3 times and I know the notes. So there we go for Canto 5. This character, how do you pronounce his name? Gelato? Like gelato ice cream? He's the one who urged Guinevere on with the Lancelot. You know, the queen, and Guinevere initiated the first kiss, and I mean, if you're familiar with that story, you know how it went down. Also, there's correspondence with St. Augustine. Now, Dante was well read in him, too, and St. Augustine had his conversion to Christianity after reading a book of Paul's. He turned from a lustful life, selfish life, to God. Canto 6 is a continuation of the incontinence, meaning they objected reason to desire, the gluttons. Here we have that the famous dog, Cerberus, the 3-headed dog. Satan is also going to make an appearance here coming up. He has 3 heads. So he makes an appearance, and we have a real-life person again, one of Dante's teachers, a fellow poet. I think this is in there, in this canto, and we also have some political things with the Ghibellines and the Guelphs. Now remember, Dante was a Guelph of the white party. The Guelphs were divided into white and black party, but Farinata was a Ghibelline, and the Ghibellines invaded Florence and took over before 1300. And here we have Farinata rising out of his tomb. When they're saying, and he to me, Virgil to the pilgrim, look to your science again where it is written, the more a thing is perfect, the more it feels of pleasure and pain. That's Aristotle. Hades ruled the underground in Greek. Pluto is a Latin. I'm not going to get into all the politics, but here it is. So, boy, this video is getting very long. I'm going to stop with after Canto 7, but here is a painting of Francesca and Paleo and Dante and Virgil talking. Francesca does all the talking. She ignores Paleo like there's nothing. Anyway, that's Canto 5. Now, Canto 7 is the Hoarders and Wasters. And this is a really interesting canto, because we have some gibberish going on here, starting off in the first mention of Satan. But the gibberish is somehow understood by Dante, and there's it's monster gibberish, There's a cross-reference here in Canto 31, which we'll get to. Cerebus, the whirlpool in the Straits of Sicily. But yeah, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here. I like this Dame Fortune. You know, one of the virtues of justice is another. But in tarot, she's number 10, the Wheel of Fortune. Fortune tellers and cartomancers, and they're all in hell. But let's get through here. Canto 10. We have Farinata, who's a great war chief of the Tuscan Ghibellines. And Dante, again, was a Guelph, so they were warring parties. And Cavalcante, father of Guido Cavalcante, a contemporary poet of Dante's in real life. So Canto 10 is a very interesting canto indeed. The senior Cavalcante mistakenly infers from Dante's reply that Guido is dead, that his son is dead, and swoons back into the flames. These are people that are, well, the heretics. And Farinata is going to recognize Dante from his family. And we get over here at like line 43. Of what line do you come? Meaning, what line does Dante come from, his family? Now, the Ghibellines took over Florence for a bit in 1260. And this is kind of saying, like, my father is better than your father type going on. Cavalcante's son, Guido, was a rival of Dante's. And he's kind of sharing a space in hell. But he doesn't know his son is dead. There's a mention of the Ariba River in Florence, and the Battle of Monteperti was very vicious, I've read. More than 1,000 crammed this tomb. The second Frederick is here, and the Cardinal of the Urabante, and the rest, let us be dumb. What troubles you? Why do you look so vacant and downhearted? Reference to Beatrice here, the sweet lady. Now, admittedly, I am glossing over this terribly. But for the sake of time, I'll probably come back and refer to some of these. I wanted to get through the first 10 cantos before it rains here in southwest Georgia.